Unconsumed podcast. I'm here with Jonathan Boos, founder of one of my favorite products on the planet, WurkinStiffs. So, Jonathan, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Hey, how you doing? I'm happy to be on and alive.
Hey, alive is a great start, and on is a good follow. So, Jonathan, you're famous for being on Shark Tank. You're famous for being on. You've been on CNBC a few different times. We were talking before the camera was rolling about the Donnie Deutsch experiment.
Yep.
What happened to Donnie Deutsch, by the way? Do you remember this?
Oh my goodness, Donnie. I don't know what happened to him, but I knew about Donnie Deutsch when I was a kid. I love
Donnie Deutsch. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew he was an advertising maven, and so I was contacted by that show, The Big Idea, in 2007. So I actually started WurkinStiffs and came up with the idea in 2005. 2006 is when we actually launched the product. And then 2007, I get an email from one of the producers, and I thought it was my twin brother playing a prank on me. I didn't think it was real.
Yeah, so I read the other day that you had a twin, and I have twin daughters, so somehow we have an affinity.
Are they identical?
They are identical, and there's some question that they might be something called mirror twins. You've heard of this?
Yeah, are they mirror?
Well, we don't know yet. So
okay.
It's like their hair is still coming in. And
Yeah.
No one's writing or walking yet, so that's where that lives.
Well, my twin and I were like the Slim Fast commercial. I'm about 15 pounds heavier than him. So if Slim Fast needs some sponsors.
Well, they became available not so long ago, if you remember that story. And we'll leave that off because that's unknown territory. But so the thing I love to talk about on these podcasts is kind of how you went from idea phase to what you are today. And so I'd love to start with the idea in 2005. So how did you think of this thing? So before we get there, WurkinStiffs is a collar stay with a magnetic hold in it. So that way, when you're using your dress shirt, you don't get what we call John Travolta effect. So in the 70s, it was stylish to have your collar spread to Wyoming, and it's not anymore. And this product has saved it. And so like I was telling you earlier, I've bought no less than 100 sets of WurkinStiffs, and I hand them out to people when I see that they have a John Travolta collar going on. And it's the best. And I'll tell you another thing. If I'm on a work trip, and I'm headed to Dallas here in a minute after this podcast, if I am on the road and I don't have my collar stays, nothing throws me off my game faster.
Let me tell you, it's funny how many guys, this one little simple idea, and I mean, it sounds crazy, but it transforms guys. I mean, they're like, I don't know what I ever did without these things. There's a company in Dallas, actually, that I spoke to the CEO yesterday. And if I don't have these with me, I don't even feel right for the day. He's like, I'm always looking for my WurkinStiffs.
Yes.
So it's been a roller coaster ride. And with what began with just a very simple idea out of a necessity more than anything else. Yeah. And if you want me to tell you how it started, I can tell you, Lee.
Yeah, I'd love to hear how it started. This is what we're all about. And this is, the classic inventor story from what I've gathered. So let's.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I was a kid, growing up, I always had ideas, and it was, those fantasy ideas. And at the time, on television, you'd see these patent, inventor groups or whatever trying to Actually, when I was a teenager, I went to one of those guys. Anyways, but fast forward, I was literally I came home from work, and my wife, we had dinner plans with a group of friends in downtown. We live in Sarasota, Florida.
Okay.
And I come home, and my wife, Amy, says, hey, just bought you a new shirt. Go ahead and put the shirt on. And as I'm buttoning the shirt up and I'm looking into the mirror, the collar was huge. I mean, even I still have the shirt to this day, by the way. Right. But the collar was it's like a 3-inch collar. And I said to my wife, I was like, man, if this shirt is, she goes, well, just take it off, stop complaining. I'm like, we got to go. And I'm like, Amy, but if the collar was here and not here, it would be, and I started taking the shirt off, and like a lightning in the mirror, I'm like, oh my goodness, what if I pin this thing down magnetically? And Lee, I can't even explain, I don't even know how it all kind of registered in my head. And then I ran around the house looking for magnets, and then I found some paper clips, and I literally walked out of the door with a very janky but first prototype of what we know as the magnetic collar stay today. So when I wore the shirt, with them in, and the whole night I'm saying to my wife, how does my shirt, like, how does the collar, she's like, just like how you had it. And when I came home, it was kind of like, I said to my wife, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna talk to Joshua, my twin, about this. And the very next day went to my brother. Now my twin is he's a hairstylist. He does hair. So he was like more the guy in the fashion,
Yeah.
And so I went to him, and he says, hey, this is the simplest and stupidest idea you've ever had in your whole life. If you don't do it, I will. And that kind of gave me the motivation to kind of really start to try to, work on that project. And long and behold, my wife was pregnant with our firstborn, with Aiden. And what had become of an idea when we found out she was pregnant, it was kind of like, I kind of was like looking at, like, we both work full-time jobs. Right. But I'm like, it could be something fun for supplemental income. It was really started nothing more than that. But, it took a process of, from that point to literally going to steel factories and learning about steel and iron and stainless and more about metals than I ever knew I would need to know. And then researching magnets and all that, and it's very interesting, and it's a simplistic product, but it's more complicated than you may think. And we were literally sanding. We had one company here in Sarasota that lasered the shapes out for us, but the edges were so sharp they were going to go through any type of cloth. So my background is I used to do collision and paint cars and motorcycles, like wild paint jobs and fabrication. Okay. So I literally was sanding the edges down to get them dull, and then hand polishing them to try to get some kind of shine or something to them. Mm-hmm. So then I would give them to my twin, because he would do like a lot of attorneys' wives and doctors' wives, financial, like, higher upper end clientele that he had, and he gave them to his clients to see a reaction, and their husbands fell in love with the product. Oh, where can we buy it? Well, you couldn't buy it. I mean, I was sanding it in my garage, and that's how. And once I knew, like, hold on, there's people actually, there's a need for this product. That's kind of when I started searching for manufacturing, which was first here in the United States.
Yeah. So this is one of those things that, yes, it's so simple, but so important. And it's one of those things that you're shocked it hasn't been done yet. And the fact that it hasn't been done yet is just like, okay, now there needs to be a speed and velocity to this typing and getting out of the market, right?
Yeah, we're from, we're blue collar family, everyone put one foot in front of the other to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, my firstborn, Aiden, and Joshua's firstborn, James, they're 8 days apart. Okay. And so it's kind of wild that our wives were both pregnant, at the same time. Right. And so at the beginning, Joshua was helping me try to get the word out of the product as I'm trying to get manufacturing done, and as well as patent attorneys, and is this thing even patentable,
Yeah, and it is, because you have the patent now.
Yeah, we have a utility patent on the product, and obviously glad we do, because and that's a whole nother layer. When you start this company off of very simple beginnings, I guess you can say, what this thing has morphed to is I don't know. It's kind of, we're very fortunate, but it comes with a lot of responsibility too. And a lot of people wanting to you knock you off. So you have to protect the brand, you have to protect the patent and defend it. And we've successfully done that along the way. But it's it's always a continuation, but it's gotten on many aspects, it's gotten easier over time, and other aspects it's gotten more complicated, just, as you're building a brand, because it's more than just, we're known for that one product, but you really are trying to put value in the brand and the branding and the personality behind the brand. So, Joshua and I are very tongue-in-cheek, and we just like to have a good, like hanging out with your friends. I mean, that's kind of the place that we come from. We don't take ourselves too seriously. I ended up into a serious industry. So, walking into menswear and not knowing that industry, that was a whole education process for us.
Interesting. So yeah, the name WurkinStiffs is like you say, tongue in cheek in and of itself, right? Because there's some sort of aura in the business world, or people that are wearing this shirt where they want to look a certain way and they want to look, kept and clean. And this one thing that adds to that, but then we're like, here's a very useful thing with a joke name that will help you get that thing.
Yeah, and the way the name even came out was. My twin, we were like attached at the hip, and you having twins, you'll figure this out. Our own language and the whole shebang.
Okay.
We were just, trying to come up with a name. And I'm, again, I'm from a design background. We're both very, like artistic and stuff. But we had kind of gone back and forth, and Josh was like, what about WurkinStiffs? Because in Europe they're not called collar stays, they're called collar stiffeners. Right. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's kind of funny. We're just a couple of WurkinStiffs. These are actually WurkinStiffs. And then I just slanged it up because our heritage is German and Italian. So at the very beginning of the marketing with the company, I came up with German engineered, Italian designed, made in the USA, all the same guy. That was the very, very, very beginning of it. Right. And when we started, we had about 5 or 6 manufacturers doing specific pieces of the puzzle. You had a magnet manufacturer, the one that was doing the collar stays, the one that was doing the insert to the packaging, the box, the label, right? And all these things would come in, and then we would assemble everything. Mm-hmm. And that's how it all began. WurkinStiffs began out of the sitting room of our master bedroom. And I graduated, I think in about 6 to 8 months time from the sitting room to the master bedroom. I was able to convince my wife that the queen bed could fit in the sitting room just enough. And I took the bigger room, the master bedroom, as WurkinStiffs headquarters.
There you go. Yeah, that's a home story. So you were mentioning before how complicated this simple thing can be, because like if I pull this collar stay out of my collar, certain magnets won't stick to it, and there are other metal stays that don't stick to this magnet.
Correct.
So can you explain that? That's obviously by design, right?
Yeah. And there's different types of metals out there. We pride ourselves on the quality. It's a surgical grade metal that we use. It's kind of it's proprietary. Plus, there is capabilities of the polishing and there's a lot of steps to what we do, because if you go out there and you find a collar stay, it'll start tarnishing within days. The edges are, even if they're small and even naked to the eye, if it's not a true smooth edge, over time, that is a fracture in the metal that causes rust and corrosion, right, and also can ruin the garment. So we can go through a lot of levels. Again, it looks like it's a simple thing. The magnets, that's a whole nother thing. And the two together, it's kind of like a Reese's peanut butter cup, right? It's like, well, why does that peanut butter cup taste different than this one? And it's it's the ingredients that they use. It's the same. It's the same thing. We kind of pride ourselves on how the level that we go to. And now and I work in millimeters, right? So and they will tell you internally here, I anguish over millimeters, which probably matter to no one else. But to me, 3 millimeters is a mile.
Well, and this reminds me of the story of Lego, right? Have you heard about how precise Lego is? And that's why their blocks fit together so perfectly.
Exactly.
There are knockoff Legos, and you can tell the difference big time.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is the packaging of the stays. When you get the stays, they are. One time I got a box and they were like suspended in a.
My goodness, boy, you're going back. Yes.
That was super cool, and I'm like, that had to be expensive to set that up.
No,
and then in the future, when I started buying, I started getting them in bulk, and then they were like in a 8-pack or a 6-pack or something.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, you're right. There's iterations. I designed all the packaging and everything myself.
Really?
And I had come up with this concept of, could I get the product to look like it was floating in the cube? And I did some hidden tricks with the label, if you remember, on top, so you couldn't see the piece of acetate that was going from corner to corner. And people would just hold that thing up and keep turning and going, how in the world is that thing suspended there? And it was just a little bit of an illusion.
It was killed on the shelf, though. Like, if you're in see that, you're like,
you know what? I might have to go back to it, Lee.
Well, can I get like a collector's edition? Yeah, like if you've been with 10 years, you get one.
If you have it, I might have to pay you. I don't even think I have that package anymore.
Long gone. I've moved 6 times since. But it's really brilliant packaging. And so ever since Apple started getting good at this, people are giving a lot of attention to packaging.
Well, that was, early on, I was drawn to Apple and the design. So you could even see the curve with my package design. I kind of knew where I wanted to go with it. The package you're talking about was actually a package that bridged the cardboard package that I designed at the beginning to the acrylic package you see today. That package you're talking about was the bridge between the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, one other thing about WurkinStiffs that I think is really cool, and this show, I found out this week actually that the viewers of this show are 79%, and this is on YouTube only, 79% male and between the ages of 24 and 35.
Nice.
Well, because we're telling the stories of like how to make it, how to struggle and make it. And so it's a good audience for you because that's your product line.
Yeah.
But the other piece is that age group is struggling for credibility, are struggling for relevancy in ways that other age groups aren't necessarily doing so. And what I'm finding here is one of the biggest differences between like a new and a junior person in a business environment is polish. And so if you're walking into a situation and your collar is all mushed down, it's like, for $7, we can solve that in parts of and it's one of those things, and it becomes addicting. Like like I said before, I can't go anywhere without it because I feel disheveled.
Yeah. The other thing too, Lee, and you may experience the same thing. You take shirts that are in your closet that have sat there and you bring them out because it like brings new life to the shirt. It's like, oh yeah, I never wore that thing because that collar on, and then you put the WurkinStiffs in and it solves the problem. But guys, in that demographic you're talking about, it doesn't take much to look polished, or a lot of the business now is no one wears a tie, but they'll wear a sport coat. In a lot of places, you're not even wearing a sport coat anymore. So instead of the collar flaring out, or one in, one out, our collar stays solve that issue. The other thing too, I was when I started WurkinStiffs, I was 31 years old. So it was kind of funny because in the workplace, I was always type A, over and above. I was always the youngest guy in the workplace, trying to just do me and excelling at what I do. It wasn't until WurkinStiffs came along where like all the puzzle pieces started snapping together for me, just for my own personal, success, nothing monetary. And that's the other thing I tell people is like, the money comes once you do, and you put your all in something you believe in and you're passionate about, the money just comes. It wasn't like I was going, I'm going to do this product and I'm going to patent it and I'm going to make all this money. It wasn't remotely like that. It was almost out of necessity, because sometimes I even think if my wife wasn't pregnant and I wasn't going to do like a side hustle because I knew I had a little one coming, we need to make some extra money. I got this magnetic collar stay idea. And my wife's like, what are you, nuts? But as those things were starting to like click, I was a general manager of a collision center. I was managing 2 stores, and they were roughly, I don't know, I'm guessing they're probably about 20, 25 miles apart from each other. So in the morning, I'd drive to the furthest one, and then at night or in the afternoon, drive to the one that was closer to my home, managing these 2 collision centers. And then at night, working and developing WurkinStiffs and trying to, get to a point where I can actually bring it to the public, however you did that. And I started at the time, I built my own 1-page website with a buy now button. So I don't know how far back you go with WurkinStiffs, but it was a 1-page with a buy now button, and it was all done via PayPal. And it was cumbersome, and it was complicated. And, the tools we have today, it's a blessing and a curse today, right? We didn't have Facebook and Twitter and all these things. I started the company at the time, 2006, where I really started putting rubber to the road. Mm-hmm. When these companies were, they were startups or, they were thoughts themselves. But on a weird way, I think that that did us some good. You really put some muscle and forethought into things, really try to keep things simple. It wasn't until we had a 1-page website for, I'm going to say maybe like two or 3 months. And about 2, we start this website, who knew about SEO? By the way, I still don't know about SEO. I have somebody that does that. The guy that chuckled in the back was my guy that does the SEO. But do you have a question, or do you want me to keep going?
No, I was just going to say, I was thinking about, so there's 2 things I'd love to hit on here is everyone has ideas all the time, right? Yeah. And everyone thinks they have $1 billion idea. And it used to be $1 million idea. And then somewhere it just multiplied itself by 1,000, just because by virtue of an M can be turned over and added a line, and then it's a B, I guess. I don't know.
I think it was the Social Network movie that he said, what's cooler than $1 million? $1 billion.
I think you might be right. And so there's this high watermark for inventors or entrepreneurs, and it has to be this astronomical business, right? And I just think that's so damaging to the young entrepreneur, because your idea, I think, and this is my thought, you give me your 2 cents, your idea is actually worth less. It's worth negative money because it costs you time and effort to bring that thing even to the surface. And so
in the beginning, oh man, I mean, in the beginning, I was working nonstop. I mean, there was times I worked, when I quit my day job, there was times that I literally, no lie, definitively worked 24 hours straight. There's times where I've worked probably almost 48 hours straight at times within the growing pains of the company. But you put so much time, like if you don't love it, right? It's like having a child. And you hear, when people are parents and they talk about, they have this kid and they won't go to sleep and I'm up all night and da-da-da. And you're like, oh, how could you do that? That's crazy. Right? You have your own children and you don't care if they're up all night. Yeah, you're tired, you're exhausted, but you're children and you're willing to do, and you got to be almost that passionate about what you're doing, because you'll put the effort in. It doesn't feel like work. You can look back and go, man, look at all those hours I put in.
Right.
It's like negative. And at some point there is that, quote unquote tipping point where things start clicking together. And I think, it's funny. Years ago I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and I said, I don't know, when you're putting so much work into something, you're not putting in 40-hour work weeks, you're putting in 100-hour work weeks or more. I mean, like, it's crazy.
Right.
So things that happen sooner, Maybe it's just because you're cramming so many hours in. If you did it 40 hours a week, it would probably take you years, but you're doing so much in so much time, and maybe that's it. I mean, I don't know. I just had this conversation actually this before we got on this podcast with my guy over here, and I said, the thing that, boy, I don't even know what I said because I just forgot my thought. By the way, Lee, that happens to me.
So good. That's the beauty of open.
My brain's always going. But anyways, the time you put in, and I know what I was going to say, is if I came at this in a very a non-organic way,
mm-hmm.
Would I be where I am today? It didn't come from any of those things that I think most people may think that it came from, like it's contrived. It wasn't contrived. And I think that's where me being able to tell my story. And when I started the company, I'm so glad you asked this, Lee. How did I start the company? I'm just joking with it. But I'm going to tell you anyways.
Here we go. Let's have it.
So I'll never forget one-page website. I come home every day, mm-hmm. Amy, and how many did I sell? She goes, oh, you sold one. By the way, I don't even know how I sold one. Again,
the internet is a mysterious place.
It's a mysterious place. It was even more mysterious 12 years ago.
Right.
So, and this is a 100% true story. I come home. How many did I sell? You sold one. This went on for about 2 weeks, and I come home. And I can still, there's certain things you'll never forget. And my wife's cooking dinner. Aiden, he's probably 6-7 months old at this point, maybe 8 months old. Amy, how many did I sell? She goes, I don't know. You probably sold one. Did you look? No, go look. So I go to the computer, and it was like, you got money in the email. Now that was a PayPal thing or something.
Yeah.
And then when you got money, it was over 200 orders.
Really?
I'm like, what? I was like laughing and crying at the same time because I'm like, what just happened?
Right.
And at the time, this was my twin's doing. He was really helping me, trying to just get anyone to pick us up, like pick it up. And uncrate.com. I don't know if you're familiar with that website.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So uncrate.com, unbeknownst to us, did this little editorial piece, and that's what got all the orders. And those orders were very painful to process. And you do it laughing and crying. And within that, we were shipping all over the world. I mean, like, Norway and Sweden. And
I'm like, paying tariffs? There's steel costs to go overseas. Where you?
I hear something about that. There's something a little going on about.
Well, we don't talk politics, but even in this year, right? No. Unless you want to. I mean, this is the internet. We can go.
But I don't even know. Lee, in those days, I don't know. I don't even know how anything got done, to be honest with you. But a store in San Francisco contacted me and said, I must have these in my store. Please call me. And I was so afraid to call him, because I didn't know how. I didn't have a wholesale model. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know even if what I was selling them for was even the right price. I didn't know. So I was very reluctant to call him, right. This gentleman. At the time, that the store was called On the Fly in San Francisco.
Okay.
And I did reach out, and I tell him, you know what? I was very honest. Like, I have no idea about a wholesale model. I'm trying to figure it out. But from that point, it probably took another month or two. I put in my notice. I wasn't making, we're making some money, but nothing. I couldn't. It
wasn't going to replace any.
It wasn't going to replace. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it came to the point where quickly that I knew if I didn't put both feet in, this probably is not going to go anywhere. So my wife was like, I was driving into work. I quit my job. I drove back, and my wife's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "We're gonna sell these collar stays to stores." And she's like, "Huh?" and the next, pretty much almost like the next morning, we woke up, and I was like, "I'm gonna get Aiden dressed." He was 10 months old at this point. This was like in September, August or September of 2006. And I said, Amy, go get dressed up to the nines, get dressed up. I plotted us out on where we're going to go. We're going to go to the store on St. Armand Circle. It's hoity-toity. I've never shopped there. Probably could never afford to step foot in there, but that's where we're going. So she got dressed up. I buckled Aiden in, and off we go to the store. So the best move I ever did with the company was know my place. I knew I was a good chauffeur, and I sent a pretty girl into the store, and I might be a little biased, but and she's smart. And Amy comes out, and she's like, he just ordered 12 units and wanted to know how I got this job. And I told him I'm the inventor's wife, and it happens to be the owner of the store. And so she goes back in, she gives him the product. He can't believe that he's receiving product right then and there. Again, we're not from retail. We're not from the industry. So to us, we didn't know how to get this done. So we were just doing it. We loaded the truck up with product, and there we go.
Right. You'll get the rules later.
Yeah. And he came out to the car, and he says, how do you want me to pay for this? I'm like, I don't know. We'll invoice you or something. We'll figure it out. And he's like, this is a fantastic story. And he goes, you need to go to Grinders. And I'm like, what's a Grinder? And he's like, you don't Grinders menswear in Tampa? That's like the major menswear. And Tampa is an hour north of us. So off we go. We drive straight to Tampa. And on our way to Tampa, we're driving over the Howard Franklin Bridge. And there was a billboard that said Kirby's Menswear. And I'm like, Amy, write that address down. And we go to Grinders, and I did the same thing. Amy goes in, and she's there. She's in there a little longer. She comes out, and she's like, he just ordered 50. And 50 I give her. And then she came up with that owner. And Aiden at this point, he's passed out, and he looks.
I was going to say, my kid would have had it by then.
Yeah. He was out like a light. And the owner says to me, I'm like, I forget, something like, I'm like third generation, menswear. He's like, you do not see this anymore. This is amazing. I belong to a buyer's group. And he goes, I'm going to help you. And that was the thing. And we went to Kirby's, and we sold Kirby's. But the biggest thing was we never pretended we were something we weren't.
Right.
We've always asked for help. And it's amazing. There's people out there that are willing to help you. And those guys actually helped me also get my pricing in line. And by the way, Lee, they didn't say your pricing's too high. They said your pricing's too low.
Right.
Huh?
You want to give me more money?
So I'm like, okay, teach me what, and then they're like, oh, we get this many points. What's a point? And so if you come from that place and you're receptive and you're honest, or at least for me, people are willing to kind of work with you. And at the end of the day, you have to have a good product, right? So it's all those things kind of lining up. And that's what truly started WurkinStiffs was my wife and I literally walking in the stores. And we did that up in New York. And my family's originally from New York. And so we were actually, up in New York and went into some stores, and not everyone says yes. Right. You get a lot of no's, but you take the yeses and you try to do the best you can with it. And then,
right.
And it's kind of fun to figure out, how do you get someone to say yes? So, and, more importantly than just hear, the no, what's the most important part is, why are you saying no? Is it price point? Is it the product itself? Do you understand the product? Is it a woman buyer versus a man's? There's a lot of buyers that are women that are buying for men. So, you look at it like if a man was buying women's hosiery and Sarah Blakely walks in from Spanx, he's going to be like, I don't know the problem. I sell women's underwear, so you need to get the person that knows the problem. So we would ask the buyers, hey, give it to a colleague, give it to one of the men in the office, and let them tell you what they think. You don't have to hear it from us. And those are the.
How do they take that? Has that ever backfired?
No, because I don't know. You just do. I mean, I've got so many funny stories. I think, I don't know. You just have to have a personality about it. I mean, I don't offend anybody. And maybe they're, by the way, Dylan over here is making a face at me. I offend some people maybe. Okay. but I'm not coming from a malicious place. It's like the other thing is when you feel so passionate, when you know something's so right.
Right.
And that's the Nordstrom story, man. It was like, oh man, do you want me to keep going?
Yes, absolutely. We got nothing but runway for this story. Beautiful.
So we were in men's specialty stores and really honed that in for 3 years. We're in men's specialty, wanting to get into a major, not knowing how to break in.
Yeah.
Our very first trade show, because you think, oh, I'm going to go to a trade show, and Bloomingdale's and they're going to see this, and it's this is a no-brainer.
It's going to be a good night.
And yeah, it doesn't work that way. So when we went to our first trade show, we didn't realize there's hierarchy with people that have attended trade shows for years. They get the best spots. You're not slipping anybody a $20 bill and getting anywhere with it, that sort of thing. But you find this out. So they gave us a wonky, this first trade show, oh man, they thought they were doing us a disservice, but they didn't know they did the best thing they could ever done for us. So we were to get a 10 by 10 booth.
Okay.
We're in the worst section in the trade show. We get there. They don't give us a 10 by 10. They give us a 5 deep by 20 long, right? And I'm like, we had a glass case.
Okay.
Like, how am I supposed to put a glass case? I could just fit behind this case. How are you giving me this 20-foot long? And they were kind of like so arrogant about it. Like, newbie, and you got this crap. Well, we're setting up our booth the night before, and a blizzard had come into New York. It was in New York, and one of the piers. And a blizzard comes in, and they're opening up the door, and we're freezing. And we're like, shut the stupid door, right? You deal with these union workers. And, by the way, all this is new to us. We don't even know what's going on half the time. And the next day, the coat check-in, to check in your stinking winter coat, you had to pass us. There was no way of not passing us. And we were 20 foot long. So along the way, we're handing out sample cards of our product, and we wrote like 60 stores in new stores. We were first show, but no one would. Let me tell you, you would have never even walked down that aisle if it wasn't for a blizzard, and you had to walk 20 feet to get by us. You couldn't miss us. And then we had a family across the aisle that we became friendly with, and they were, signaling to us who's who. Yeah, you need to get with that one. But
really? So you said when you got 60, you made 60 relationships that resulted in buys there?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It was our best. It was our, probably even to this day, maybe like our, in small stores and like the independent stores. I mean, since then when Nordstrom, which is a whole, so 3 years, I'm going to try to back this up. So year one, 2016, 2017, I already did the trade show.
Yeah.
Donnie Deutsch. I get that email. It takes me a couple of days to not think it's a joke. I contact them. And long story short, the producer said, oh, I had an idea for a collar correction. Didn't know anything existed. I put in the perfectcollar.com. I own that domain. I was smart enough to buy many domains.
Yeah. You want to have some.
Yeah. I knew that early on. And he came up with WurkinStiffs, and he said to me,
Deutsch came up with that?
This was one of his producers, and he said to me, he's like, "Oh, your product is way better than what I was even thinking of. Would you like to be on the show?" And I'm like, I watched the Donnie Deutsch show. It's all P. Diddy and Oprah. I mean, I'm not a millionaire. Who do you think I am? He goes, no. We're going to do this very first segment. We're changing the program, and the very first segment is my idea is going to make millions, and we want you to be the very first guest. Mm-hmm. So they changed the format, and I was the first guest on that. And that got me some notoriety. I did get some sit-down meetings with different ones in New York, but it still didn't land me into a department store. What landed me in the department store was really doing my research. And it was, we're trying to get into the department stores, you name it, phone calls, email, smoke signal, everything. And we weren't penetrating. And some of them, because we knew there were women buyers, I'm like, oh man, a smaller store is easier because you can get to the person you need to get to. You can have that relationship. The bigger stores, they have a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
And but what I did was my wife and I started going in and kind of like doing, if you will, like a secret shopper. So we never shopped at a Saks and a Bloomingdale's and a Nordstrom. We were, Macy's and Dillard's.
Yeah.
You got to get to know, because of the stores that we were in, which we never thought we would be in the beginning, which are these high-end specialty stores.
Mm-hmm.
So now we went into those department stores. And so then you quickly find the staff on the floor that resonate with the personality of the brand. So what happened was, when I went to like a Neiman's and a Saks, to be honest with you, which we sell there now, but we got hyper focused because the culture of Nordstrom, very customer service oriented, did not know anything about Nordstrom, obviously knew who Nordstrom was in the store. But if you had flip-flops on or the nicest pair of dress shoes you could find, they treated you the same. And I never forgot, I said to my wife, I'm like, we need to concentrate on this store. This is the store, because our culture aligns right away. We don't care what you look like. Everyone's, puts their pants on the same way. Maybe some people jump in on both feet first, who knows?
I'd love to do it. There's a product that does that. Like, it says, just hop in there.
I'll let you know. I'll start working on it.
I love it.
But anyways, we really got hyper focused, and some things just aligned up. And when we met the people, a buyer with Nordstrom at the time, they were the last department store really to have regional buyers, which they are now at the same format as everyone else, is omni-channel, one buyer for the whole category. But at this time, they had 5 regional buyers, and it just took one regional buyer that we met at a trade show. It was a little orchestrated, to be honest with you, but we got the one buyer,
mm-hmm.
and they told everyone else, and it was just, they started coming in and talking to us.
Yeah.
And I blocked everybody out. I just focused. And that year, I saw 88 Nordstrom stores. I plane, trained, and automobiled around the country, talking to the people on the floor to let them know that this is a husband and wife team with a child. This isn't a corporation with another, fly-by-night product. This is our lifeblood.
Right.
And that changed the game.
The story changes the game big time. So when you're going through all of this, and it's starting from one thing and it's going to the other, and then there's these massive spikes, and now you're looking at a new trajectory essentially, and that's where you are today. So when I saw you, it's funny that you mentioned Donnie Deutsch, because I used to be a bond trader in Chicago.
Yeah.
I worked overnight because I would trade the Asian markets and the futures after hours, obviously. And CNBC goes to essentially become talk shows after the markets close.
Yeah.
And so I watched Donnie Deutsch every night for probably 4 years, or whatever his time frame was. And then they were subbing in other things too. But I saw the episode when you were on it live, and maybe they're replaying them. I don't know, but I've seen that episode, and I remember thinking like, that's pretty cool. I should investigate this. And then I'm not sure how I first got plugged into it, but yeah, I remember distinctly seeing you on a trading floor on TV on Donnie Deutsch.
Oh, that's funny.
That is super funny. And then, so one other thing I'd say to you. So when all of this is going on, you're getting one order, and then you get 200 because there's a break there. And then when that break occurs, you run through that gap. I use the football analogy.
Yeah.
But once you find that gap, how do you shift into becoming one of the big guys? Because you've got this chip on your shoulder. It's working for you to some level, but now you are something completely different.
Yeah.
Talk to that.
Yeah. So, quickly going into, so this is the thing. When you believe in something so much, when you know something's so right, and let's say the other side of the table doesn't see it the way you see it.
Right. And
you're passionate about it, and you can, like what you said, you see the gap and you're trying to go through the gap. It's fostering a relationship and a partnership. Even to this day, everything I approach is on a partnership level. I always tend to under promise and over deliver.
Right.
I let the product speak for itself. Obviously, you got to give the product knowledge and education to the product, and really get your story out there. So for me, it was vital that I got the story out on the floor of Nordstrom, which then they told the story. They didn't really need me. You're out there, you're doing product knowledge, you're actually interacting with customers, you're selling the product, you're learning their lingo. I learned so much from going to those stores because they have their own language.
Right.
What's UPT, units per transaction? Oh, you actually gauge that? Yeah. Oh, this
kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So once you start kind of, learning and understanding and then becoming a more of an important part of their business,
right,
is when you're able to then, explore other avenues or different products or whatnot. But look, there's ones that I know that I even tried help get into a major store, right, got them a test run, and it failed miserably. And then you go, well, why did it fail? And it could be a number of reasons. I don't know. Like, one thing that's in my head, I won't say who or what or where. I believed in the product.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it didn't resonate with the sales force, if you will, on the floor. So that's what they usually do, is they'll test you in a couple of doors before they roll you out in all doors. They had Nordstrom specifically had promised me 12 doors. By the time they flew back to Seattle and I flew to Florida from that show, they put me in 24 doors because what I said, I gave them the collar stays and I said, it's not going to set metal detectors off. And they said, yeah, we saw that on the packaging. So are you to tell me if it sets the metal detector off, I'm going to give them out. If it sets the metal detector off, this is a no-go? I go, yeah. I go, yeah, we won't go into any doors if it sets a metal detector off. So by the time they went back to Seattle, one of the, higher ups with the Nordstrom contacted me and says, hey, not one metal detector went off at the airport. We're going to put you in 24 doors. We promised you 12. We're putting you in 24. So that, it's those kind of things, like when you really know your product and you've tested it, you're not making like flippant statements. What happens is, you start becoming trusted, and, and that relationship forms. And as I was going to the stores, they started, the product was performing so well. We had an 80 to 100% sell-through in those first 24 doors, and its first week hitting the floor of Nordstrom. Our business with Nordstrom even today continues. No one knows where the ceiling is on this thing.
Yeah.
And we just keep, as we keep moving forward with other companies, whatever, that's our mantra is, our product crosses, and that's some of the stuff we're doing now is, we're going to more of a, we're looking at ways to go out into a more mass market. And so you may have seen like our plastic stiff and stay, which is a plastic magnetic collar stay. So it's a more cost-effective introductory level product to get in with WurkinStiffs, and then you can graduate to the metal, polished stays. So we are actually testing that out. We're testing it with a partner today. I've always wanted to get with a shirt brand. We've collaborated with a shirt brand based out of Dallas that we're really excited about. They've been clients of ours for years. And ironically enough, this had nothing to do with it. The CEO is from Sarasota. That's where, we live, my family, we live. And it works, but they have a shirt that it's a tech fabric. Our messaging pretty much aligns on the fact of bringing something new into an industry that's known it for, away for so long.
Right.
And these guys, and you may have heard of you may know this brand. It's Mizzen and Main.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, so Mizzen and Main. And so these guys, they're on a trajectory that's ridiculous. A lot of athletes and they brand message to those guys because of the moisture wicking and the four-way stretch, and it's a great product.
The four-way stretch changed the game for me big time too.
Yeah, and the thing is the product aligns. It's tech, it's technology. As simplistic as it may be, even they've got guys that are trying to do what they do, but they can't. They don't have the same blends as they have. There's. Why does grandma's spaghetti sauce taste so well? It's like,
because they can't seem to reproduce that.
That's the thing. It's like, you got to put the pinch of love in it, Lee.
Oh, the pinch of love. I thought you said leaven. I was like,
Leaven.
yeah, well, I mean, bread and meat sauce goes well together. Maybe he's onto something. So one other thing I'd love to talk to on this show is the tactical knowledge of an expert in a space, which is you have created something over the span of time, and you brought it to market. And so if anyone is out there thinking, I have an idea, it's something, it's product based, maybe I want to make this pen, and how do I go about starting doing that? So yours was, I found some paper clips and magnets, and prototype one, I tested it out day one, but then eventually the rubber had to hit the road. And when you go to those stores and they order 50 or they order 200, you can't make all of those in the garage.
All right, so here's the deal.
Outline the process for the newbie.
Yeah, you've got to, okay. So for me, here's the step that I missed with you and didn't tell the audience here.
Yeah.
I literally bought 12,000 units, complete finished goods that were sitting in my garage, and I had to get rid of them. Yes. Hence the quitting of the job, hence the getting into a car. At some point, you've got to go all in. You got to get out of your comfort zone. And so first off, I have an idea. Most people that have an idea, and I heard it as I was traveling, I hear it today. Oh, that's simple. It's so simple. I
could have done that.
I could have done that. I'm going, yeah, it is. It's, but you did it, and I did. So you got to actually do something. Like, you can't just sit there and say, yeah, I mean, like, just do it. Like, and if you don't do it, then obviously you don't believe in it. But when the next guy comes and does it, don't poop on his parade. I mean, the guy did it. I don't know what to tell you, right?
Right. It's one other thing I'd always mention here is that just doing it isn't even enough, because you have to do it with excellence. You've
got to have a hyper focus even nowadays. Lee, I think it definitively is different. It's different today than 12 years. I mean, I don't want to sound like an old man. I mean, I wasn't doing this in 1930. I mean, this is 2005.
Can you tell me about Black Monday?
but the thing is, it's like, you had the Industrial Revolution. I mean, now you're in a tech revolution. I mean, things are still going so fast. Hey, look at now you can do 3D printing.
Yes.
I've worked with other guys that are trying to bring products to market. I've redesigned stuff for some people, friends of friends type of stuff. Try to help as much as I can. I don't have my hand out. I'm just trying to help, especially when it's something that intrigues me. But at the end of the day, what I've learned, what you can't instill in people is drive.
Right.
You could have the 3D prototype. You can get it all the way off into a pre-production sample, but you cannot give that person the drive. They can have the best product known to man, but if they don't have the drive, and the only one that's going to be as passionate, or should be them. I mean, the person that's going to be doing it should be the guy, the inventor of the product. I mean, there's going to be like pitchmen or people that can do it better, and there's people that do it better than me. But I mean, when you don't have two nickels to rub together, it's you. I mean, you got to do it. One-page website, designing labels. I learned graphic software. I mean, I used to do, flame jobs on motorcycles and all this stuff, but I didn't know how to run a computer program. So at night, I would teach myself, and you just kept going. Now, while my friends are out seeing movies and going out to dinner, I was literally, like a recluse in a room, like a mad scientist trying to get this stuff done.
Right.
So for anyone that has an idea, the first step is actually, getting to a prototype stage and it's just, and it's doing it. But then now, like we said, nowadays, you've got to be so focused on, well, what's my messaging going to be? And everything lives forever on the internet. So like now, I mean, I see photos and different things today from years ago. I cringe. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's still there. Dylan, get that down. How do you get that down? Call somebody. and so like to come out of the gate now, you almost have to be so polished that it's
really funny because I'm talking to, I talk to young guys all the time about how to get started in whatever they're trying to do. And I feel like the generation that's coming out of college now is the ability for them to be distracted is greater than it's ever been before. Because if in 1990 if I wanted to procrastinate or put something aside, I could listen to the CD until it was all the way over. And then now it's like I've got Spotify and I can listen to every song ever if I'm just gonna wait for my thing to come by, right?
Yeah. what I was going to do to you, but Dylan couldn't get it to me fast enough. I was going to just start taking my phone and start going like this while you're talking. Like, that's what they do.
And the phone is.
It's like, there's no more 15 minutes of fame. It's 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. Everybody, this generation, and look, they work for me. Love everyone. Hi. That, they want it now. So yes. But that is advertising. It's false. It's false. Like,
it's lies, bro.
Yeah. Everyone thinks like they're gonna, hey, look, I think lightning does hit for some people. And, I'll disclose, I don't have investors in my company. We no matter what Shark Tank tells you or anything like that. And those are all stories. But we've chosen to stay on a path for us. And by the way, things are changing as we speak. There's a lot of things going on here, and all great things. But, I've chose to really take things a little, some people might say slow or we'll say strategically.
That's the nice word for it. Yeah. Comes with more documentation.
By the way, we're pivoting the company. But, like all these terms or whatever, everyone's trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And, but you really have to have the biggest thing that I can give any advice to the best advice to anyone, we've wasted a lot of money here. I have. To get hype, when and it works, and then you have anyone, whether you hire them into the company or an outsider, deviate. When what works, stick to what works. I've been knocked out of focus because, that's, you don't get into a car and sell your product out of a vehicle. What are you, crazy? Well, it worked for me. No, that's not the way it's done. This is the way, all of a sudden you start listening to everyone else the way it's done, and you're hemorrhaging money, and you're doing this, and you're doing that. You're like, well, what was working was the other thing. And it might be an unorthodox way to get there. But, in this day and age, you have to stand out from the crowd. And don't stand out from the crowd just to stand out from the crowd. It's got to be, you really got to listen to what works. And sometimes you're going to have people say you're crazy, and you're going to have to say, for us, I think for me, it's never really been about, like, I've said this probably 3 times already. It's never really been about the almighty dollar. That's not how we live our life as a family. And so I think there's other things that are more important. And so for our family life, I have my son is now 12 years old. So Aiden's 12, and my daughter's Lennon is 7. So those are the things, that matter most. And time is very important. And everything else, like I said, comes, naturally, if you will. But you got to put the time in. And I think the thing that you were kind of hitting on with this generation and so forth is like, I don't know how to break it to everyone. You gotta blood, sweat, and tear the thing a little bit. And then if someone comes along and wants to give you money and that's what you want to do, you do it. But, I don't look back with any regrets for us personally. Mm-hmm. I'm probably lying to you a little bit, Lee. I do. I actually do look back with some regrets. But I don't know. You got to move forward and try to, figure it out. But, getting back to your original question, which, by the way, Dylan's probably going to be very, very impressed I even remember the original question.
Yeah, well, we're flipping along
but you have to go all in. At some point, playing both sides doesn't work. You can't, if you're going to make a marriage work, you got to be in it wholeheartedly. And that's the same thing with business. You have to be in it wholeheartedly and passionately,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is an absolute truth. I've seen some cases where there's the moonlighting can only go on for so long until it has to become the thing. And so for you, that happened really quick. A lot of people stay on that track for a long time because they're not willing to let go of the security, right?
But Lee, let me tell you, I mean, what I look back and say it happened quick. When you're in the thick of it, mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I wanted a major store in the biggest way, and I was going to say in a major way, but that was like 2 majors. And
double major.
But when you look back, when I look back here, I go, man, that happened quick. But when I was in the thick of it, 3 years to get into a major, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's taking so long? And then once you're on that stage, we had talked about like once you kind of break through that and you get onto the next level,
right,
eyes are on you that you don't even realize that the eyes are on you. So the Neiman Marcus, the Bloomingdale's, the Saks Fifth Avenue, those conversations were simpler. They were calling me because they saw the product on the floor of a competitor. They've got people out there looking, and then they'll ask the people, you got to see this thing's hot. It's a collar stay by WurkinStiffs, and it does this, and they're talking to a buyer of their competitor.
right.
The next thing you know is, what do they do? And it's like, so that's the thing, is like, when you get hyper focused and you're not all over the place, you're not buckshot, and you can break through that barrier, that other stuff will come. It comes if the product resonates. Now, if you invent your pen, and it's like every other pen out there, and Amazon sells it for 1/10 of the cost.
Yeah. Well, you guys are on Amazon. I was going to say, I used to work at Amazon. And,
did you? What'd you do for Amazon?
I was in the Amazon business department, and so it's a long story, but the inner workings of that beast is just absolutely amazing. The analytics that are done in running that store it'll astound you.
I can imagine.
So yeah, so, and that's where I don't know where I to this day I can't remember where I got my first WurkinStiff, but I could show you my order history. I bought a ton off Amazon.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah, that's where I get them. I mean, when you're working over there, it's like very easy to be like sitting at your desk. And then one of the cool things about working for Amazon, this is a side note, is that they will return all of your Amazon packages that you don't want straight from the office mailroom. So you can just you get your thing delivered to your desk and you open it up, you don't want it, just send it back to the mailroom and they'll send it back to the mothership.
But that's the luxury of working at Amazon.
Just one of them, yes.
Well, were you in Seattle, or were you?
No, I was in Austin, Texas.
Oh, you're in Austin. Wow.
Yeah.
Doing it right there from Austin. Yeah. Amazon is a whole nother story, but that, I mean, I don't know if it's a story I could tell, but
feel free to leave that off the table. But you guys are there, and you are
there. We were very successful on owning our brand on Amazon and protecting our intellectual property.
Right.
And the partnership with Amazon has been very fruitful and continues to grow arm in arm with Amazon. So Amazon was like my nemesis, and who eventually became, an important
a frenemy.
I don't know if I want to go that harsh. Yeah. I don't know. Hey, look, it's what's difficult and what's sad is that this world is changing, and the retail landscape is changing at such a high speed and high pace.
Right.
That you've got these brick and mortars that we started with that haven't evolved and changed with it. So you're seeing the brick and mortar. You're hearing it in the news, and you're seeing it. So, we try to, you try to do a balancing act. You want to help the stores that got you to where you were, because I never want to forget the people that got me even here.
Right.
And it's difficult, but it's bigger than a collar stay. But you want to be as meaningful to a business as possible. But what's the word? I bucked the Amazon system for so long, not kind of with these small stores and with the department stores too. I mean, no one's left out of this. It's not a small business problem or a large business problem. But if you don't align in some way, it doesn't have to be, pick your path. You've got it. They've got such a foothold on the audience of how much volume and people are seeing your brand.
Right.
So for us, and which is a win for our stores as well, is that we are the owners of our brand on Amazon. So now if you buy from a WurkinStiffs product on Amazon, it's 99% going to be us. And all the infringers out there and this, that are put to bed. So we've been very fortunate with our alignment with Amazon, and in saying so, we have stores that continue to do a great business and continue to succeed and grow our business that we've been with. since the beginning, and it hasn't affected them, but they're doing different things. I mean, that's why, you know, as an outsider looking in, you can see that they're not one dimensional.
Right.
But it is nice to be able to order something and within 1 to 2 days get it. Mm-hmm. And a product like ours, it's simple because, you know, we're not size intensive. It's you know, it's very, you know.
Yeah, it's nice and lightweight. You can fit a million of them in a shelf. So let's say you're 31 and it's 2018. You have the idea for WurkinStiffs.
Oh wow! Boy, you're going to say a question that we've talked about. Go say it.
Yeah, it's the 2018. You're 31. You come up with the idea for WurkinStiffs this morning. You're working through prototyping. You're by next week. You've got the 12,000 in the garage. Is it possible to go straight to Amazon and have any level of success that you've had going straight there? Is that possible? I don't know. I'm asking like out of.
Do I have patent protection? Can we put that on the table?
Yeah, well, see, these are the things you're going to bring to the table, right?
Hey, look, let me tell you, the best thing I ever did. I might have said that a couple of times though on this interview. One of the best things I ever did when I went to a patent attorney firm, mm-hmm. Kind of high level. You know, they were recommended to me by someone that has a patent that was published, and these guys were expensive, right? Mm-hmm. Point blank. Best money ever spent. Spent about $10,000 for them to tell me, it's a 50-50 shot. And I was like, well, you sound like Al Roker on the Today Show on the weather. What do you mean 50-50? So they're like, you know what? Put all your money into marketing. Forget about the patent. That's what we're gonna, you know, suggest you do, and that's our advice. Mm-hmm. And I go, no. I said, well, what happens if I do what you say and someone, you know, copies me? Do I have any? No, you don't have any recourse.
No recourse. Yep.
So I said, forget it. Let's go for it. And I was just like, let's go for it. I didn't know how I was going to pay these people. You know, work overtime, do whatever I had to do. But the patent protection for us was, you know, it's a key piece. I mean, you know, so 31 years old, I have a patent. Can I take 12,000 units, go to Amazon, and get the success we have today?
Run any timeline.
I think look at, you know, if you have the videos, you have, like, you know, I didn't start with the how-to videos. If you have the package wrapped up in a different way, I couldn't have just put 12,000 online to Amazon and say, well, I'm going to sell 12. It wouldn't have happened. I mean, you know, you'd sell one a day maybe. Hold on. The news just in.
No way.
It wouldn't happen, right?
No.
All right. Dylan says it wouldn't happen either.
No way.
I think if you gotta get people talking about it. I really believe, you know, I had a lot of foot soldiers. I had more people talking about my product than I probably even know today. Like, I don't know.
I've been on one of them for a long time.
But hey, look, and then there's ones, Lee, that, you know, I'll go into an airport. I mean, we're my wife and I will see people with collars that are flying out. We're like, we'll go up to them. You know, they look, if an overweight 43-year-old comes up to you in the airport, you know, they tend to scurry. But if my wife comes up to you, they'll listen. So we'll send her up, and you know, and then oh my gosh, I never heard of WurkinStiffs, and that is the best thing I could ever hear. Mm-hmm. The best thing I could ever hear is you never heard of me. And then I get mad. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, well, what do you mean you haven't heard of me? Call up Dylan. You know, you better do some social marketing. No one's heard of me. But that's the thing, is like, you gotta, if you're just going to take a product and think you're going to stick it on Amazon, and let's say you don't have a patent, I say to you, good luck. Like,
it'll get ripped off if there's any success, right? You
know what the problem is, Lee, is that you have factories in China bringing products straight into Amazon. You know, there used to be something called middlemen, right? Uh-huh. There's somebody I'm going to tell you about. Do you remember? I mean, it's still in existence today, but I know the founder, who, you know, he's no longer with the company. He, you know, was fortunate enough to get bought out years ago. But the Thai Bar out of Chicago,
yeah,
the ThaiBar.com.
Uh-huh.
So Greg was the first one to really, in the menswear industry that I know of. I'm not going to say he's the first one. Everyone, the one that I know, the first one. He was selling $15 silk ties to the end consumer. Going direct to consumer, he took out the wholesale B2B stores, and he's like, look, I'm going on .com and I'm going to sell it direct. And the guy now, hey, this is the perfect, Gas 31 on Amazon. It took Greg years. It didn't happen overnight for him. I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer. You're going to bring in a $15 silk tie when at Macy's it's 40, 45. So, I mean, so he really kind of disrupted the industry. Mm-hmm. Well, now China's taking out him. China's like, I'm going to come straight in with a $5 silk tie, and I'm going to do it by Amazon. And everyone on Amazon, from our experience, for the most part, I'm not going to say it's the rule, but for the most part, it feels like it, that people look for what's the cheapest thing I can buy. The cheapest isn't always the best, and and that's where the branding comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the secret sauce in the Amazon is the stack ranking of availability versus price versus quality, essentially, or ratings is what they're.
You would know better than me, Lee. You know what? We need to sit down together off air and talk about you and Amazon.
Yeah,
I'm going to shake you down for a little bit.
Well, I'll give you what you gave me in terms of men. So the last thing, and I'll kind of shift into the last thing I want to talk about is if you have this idea and it's a physical product, what is the first step you should take after you have the idea?
If it's a physical product, first after the idea. Okay. I think obviously dependent on the product, you've got to get it prototyped. One of the things is I believe in an NDA, but I'm also going to tell you an NDA is about as good as the paper as the people putting their name on it.
Right.
But it's a good formality to have in place because you're going to have to find someone that can manufacture the product for you. So whether it's overseas or here in the States, you got to make that decision. In the beginning with WurkinStiffs, I manufactured here in the States for years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then I had to go overseas. The prices were going up. No one was working with me. Ironically enough, volume going up, pricing going up. And I would sit down with them and say, how does this make sense? Volume's going up, pricing should come down. And I don't want to go overseas. And even to this day, I wish we could have stayed here in the States and manufactured in the States. Right. So my advice would be definitely prototype in the States, preferably manufacture in the States. But you have to get a prototype eventually to the point where it's production ready. Mm-hmm. So whatever the product is, you're going to have to be able to really see and test how it works, or and it can be something as simple as a comb. I mean, there's so many manufacturing things that can go wrong. I use this kind of product and I combed through my hair and the teeth broke off or whatever, right? So you really have to do your research. If you come out, and this just happened to someone who will remain nameless, but if you don't test the product out and all of a sudden they do something normal and they're going to go wash the product and it melts, that's a problem. And if you don't know that and you've produced thousands of these things, it's detrimental to your business. So you can't miss the step of anytime you feel like you've tested enough and you get to that stage where you have a physical product in hand. What we do here, even on all products, we will we have products that are in development, different things that we do. Mm. I will usually get like let's say a dozen or 2 dozen made, and then hand them out. And you hand things out to different ones. Hand that wallet out to a construction worker, hand it out to the guy behind the desk. Because the guy that you're going to be selling it, you don't know who that guy is going to be and how they treat their things. The guy, the construction worker is probably going to handle their things nicer than the guy behind the desk. You just don't know. You're going to assume that the construction worker is going to, right. No offense to any construction workers out there. But no stereotyping.
The quality assurance piece, and so now you're talking software back to me, and I live here, so it's like, the more you can test something, the more we can be assured that when it hits the market, we're going to get
and you have to have the money.
5-star reviews in the App Store,
Well, that's the other. See, this is the thing. See, this is what's changed. The reviews are everything. Reviews are everything. Reviews will make or break you.
Yeah, especially in the online outlets, for sure.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's the thing. First thing people do is they read the reviews. And hey, look, you can have 100 great reviews and you got the one guy, I lost my magnet. And it's like, well, I can't help you. You lost the magnet, but it's up there for the world to see. I'm like, I don't know. I can't help you, but I mean, I'll help you. But
and it stays there because that's what makes you trust the rating system.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And then that's where your customers, what do you stand for? What are your, what are your code of ethics and stuff? But as far as a product, the more you can test it, and then really, you got to make decisions whether you're going to bootstrap the thing and go to market with it, or you're going to get an investor, or you're going to get friends and family to invest some money in and all those things bring in a level of stress that, you just can't. I mean, there was a point in time with WurkinStiffs when I was starting, my parents had to loan me money, and I knew that the money that they loaned me, and nowadays probably isn't a lot of money to us. I mean, it's a lot of money, but with the company where it is today. But to my parents, it was a lot of money, and that pressure of being able to pay them this loan back. And they said, John, no interest, just pay us back when you can pay it back.
Right.
It took me, oh my gosh, it took me probably 5 years, 6 years to pay that money back. And it was like, and it weighed on me every day. Even if my parents didn't even, they're not sitting there going, where's my money? No one's saying anything. It's just in your head. So when you start,
it owes people money, right? Like
that?
You never want to be the guy that owes people money.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, even nowadays, even with banks and stuff, the way I run the business is like I pride myself on paying people and this, that, and the other. But all those things you got to factor out as you're bringing this product to market, and the stress of it that what if it doesn't work? Mm-hmm. If you have an inkling of doubt that this thing's not going to work, then it's probably this path isn't probably for you. Right. We talk about risk all the time. I'm more risky, which outsiders may say, oh boy, that's a risky move, or this, that, and the other, but it's a calculated risk. I mean, and everyone has a different tolerance. And so, it was funny. They had me fill out for a simple IRA, your risk level. And I'm like, moderate. And they're like, but you're an entrepreneur. You go all in. I go, yeah, because I go all in here. I need to be conservative here.
That's brilliant, man. Because it's like, if you're going to be out there on everything else, you can't be out there across the board. That's just stupid. Then you're called crazy, Lee. Yes.
But I think with anyone out there, it's like, you got to put those steps in. You should put deadlines together. Right. You should hold people by deadlines. You should hold manufacturers by deadlines. One of the biggest things I really preach is that when you come to production, when a manufacturer agrees with you on a delivery date, and everyone at the table is comfortable with the delivery date, knowing that delivery date is going to be important to you, and you might make some concessions that it's a little longer, but they agree that they can deliver. I put a 20% discount on it, so the day you miss it, I get a 20% discount on that order.
Yeah.
And
so do that contractually up front is what you're saying.
Correct. Do all that up front. Have open, honest conversation, what the expectations are and what you're not going to accept and what you will accept. All that stuff has to be up front. And if it's not up front, it doesn't matter. And what that does along the way is, it's another way to build trust. And so also, so when you say something to a manufacturer, they're going to know you mean it. Right. And then vice versa. If you dealt with someone that was always late, even an employee, if they're always late and they say, well, I'm going to be on time tomorrow. Well, you go like, I ain't going to be on time.
Yeah, you show me a few times first, right?
Yeah, show me that you're. So it's all these little things. It's forging relationships, and then these relationships turn into partnerships on a level. It's like a clock. Everything's got to work, and the wheel goes round and round.
Yeah, beautiful. So, we're running here, but I figured I had to ask you. No, you're all good. I had to ask you about Shark Tank. So you were on Shark Tank in 2013, correct?
2011 it aired.
2011.
So this season two.
So this is early on in the Shark Tank.
So this is. Yep. And so I got a call. I was in a cab going to my very first Saks Fifth Avenue meeting.
Okay.
This is late 2010, and it was the casting director for Shark Tank, and I saw I saw season one.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, one of the people that was on season one was on the Donnie Deutsch show. So I was like, oh, she was on. I was in the green room with her and Donnie Deutsch, and so I don't even know how they got my. Well, I do know later on. What happened was they saw the product at Nordstrom, and they were looking for a product that was recognizable, that was already in the marketplace and already selling well. Mm-hmm. So I was called, and I'm on the phone like, oh, I'm heading to a meeting. Well, would you be interested in being on the show? And I'm like, well, let me call you back and let me think about it. And I'm like, of course I'm interested in being on the show. Okay. So I was able, I called them back, and then it's a process. It's not, and even when you fly out to Los Angeles and you film, no one's guaranteed being on the show. And so when I filmed, I knew it was good television. Nothing's scripted, everything's real.
Okay.
But I was on set for over an hour, and they, kind of like this interview, and then you're going to condense it to 7 minutes and make me go.
No, we do no cuts ever. Yeah, the internet will hear this in its entirety.
But so yeah, I mean, those are, I said earlier about no regrets. One of my regrets I probably do have is turning away from that deal. So, the deal, we discussed it for 3 months after taping of the show. Mm-hmm. And, there was dynamics of the deal that I wasn't willing to do. And I didn't have legal representation, which I probably should have had. And I should have had a mentor or someone that was kind of like been there, done that.
Right.
In retrospect, I would have gotten some more seasoned help mm-hmm. to really kind of structure something, because they were very interested. And this is, no one's paying me. No one's, Damon and Barbara, they were like super nice people. And, it just at the time just wasn't, I was trying to build a brand, and, where this whole thing was kind of heading, where they wanted it to go with licensing IP and different things. I didn't, it's kind of like, I don't want to hear it. And,
well, if you had gone the licensing route, then WurkinStiffs as it is today wouldn't
exist.
Right. Correct. So I don't, well, I'm not making calls for you.
No.
I see that and I'm like, given what I know now, that was pretty strong play right there.
Yeah. Well, I think, what happens, Lee, is there's always going to be in your journey these mm-hmm. peaks and valleys.
Right.
So when you hit like a valley or a plateau, you start second guessing, like, oh, was it the right decision? But then, like where we are today, it was definitely the right decision. The things we were talking about then are coming into play today.
Right. So,
I do believe that if Nordstrom came to me when I wanted Nordstrom, when I wanted a major, forget Nordstrom, let's just say a major. If I got my wish,
right,
and I was a year in and I got major stores, I probably would have crashed and burned. There's something to be said about putting the time in, understanding an industry I did not belong in,
right,
and realizing.
Where does anyone belong? Sorry.
I know, but you can feel like an outsider, and sometimes I still do today. I mean, I've been in this industry for 12 years, and I still feel like an outsider. But those are the ones like us become disruptors in our own way, whether big or small, and you make a difference. And you can see that, and then having even conversation with you now. I mean, it's great when you hear somebody that loves the product. I mean, that's the thing that makes me the happiest, is like someone that loves the product, that believes in it, has bought it multiple times because they love the product. I mean, like at the end of the day, what more can someone ask for? I mean, like, it's like seeing your child is like, like a superstar to someone, and you're like, isn't that the happiest thing? They're like, oh, your son is a model student and he's an example to all. And you're like, oh, my product is too. It's like,
that's a pretty wild, like deep, seated human thing. And I have to, like, if you think about why that is, it's pretty epic. So if we're talking about this stuff in the long cycle, but let's get real tactical for 2 seconds. Like if I wanted to, if I'm that same guy that is trying to get his product on Amazon, and then I want to go be on Shark Tank, and I'm talking about like right now, how does that get done? Is it possible, or are they going out and selecting? Is there open chat?
Yeah. So if you go to abc.com, there's a Shark Tank link somewhere where you can sign up.
Dump a video in there or something?
Yeah, go to the casting call. These people actually look at because I've talked to people even after me.
Mm-hmm.
I became friendly with some segment producers, and these guys, they're looking. So right. It's, you might not hear something. I'm famous internally here is I email somebody and they don't respond to me right away. I'm like, what's wrong with them? Is their email working? But you have to wait. I'm very impatient. Yeah. But you wait, and they do reach out, and I know that for a fact. Timing's everything on certain things, and some of the things, like I said, you look back and I go, I'm very grateful things happened the way they did, and I didn't get what I wanted now, because I wouldn't be where I am today. I mean, it just wouldn't have happened. The whole there's a whole nother layer when you deal with majors. The way you even receive orders is through EDI, and EDI is some technical stuff and some hoop jumping, if you will. And
what does EDI stand for the layman?
Electronic data interface. So the way
an API kind of deal,
like the way I define EDI like the fax machine versus email. The API would be email, and EDI is the fax. I think it's more the antiquated way. The new way is API. But this is the way they communicate with orders, and there's a lot of routing guidelines, and right. There's a lot of then you're dealing with chargebacks if people never heard of those terms, and sometimes you have an item in there that's worth $100 and you got a $250 chargeback. You tell me how that one works, and they keep your product, but because you put a label on the top of the box and not on the side of the box. So all those things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, please. We can go on for hours.
Yeah, I'm not from retail. So this is all news to me. That's why, like, I'm sitting here like I don't know what I'm learning on the spot.
Yeah, it's very, but the reason is, and you can get mad about the process.
Right.
But every retailer or partner has their own process, and the reason is they're getting thousands of packages. They need to have that label on a certain way, and you get dinged for it. And you get some of them are higher than others. I've gotten one chargeback off of one package, $1,500 worth of chargebacks. They were gracious enough to waive it because it was ridiculous as far as the product inside was like $200, and I got a $1,500 chargeback. And that was early on, right? And it was
too, yeah.
Yeah, and you ask for forgiveness, that's the thing. But all these things that where we are today as a company, where I am, my knowledge within the industry, and we do all our own fulfillment here. We have done so for 12 years.
Okay, so you're third-party fulfillment on the regional sites, and then also to the stores.
So we ship out of our facility here everything, except for we have a third-party fulfillment center in Canada that handles our Canadian business. But look, I'm very hands-on. Things are changing now, like I said, even for us, because the order, we're looking at different ways to streamline, and we're talking about partnering up with the 3PL. I'm actually looking at a couple of companies right there in Austin. So I will be knocking on your door one day.
Yeah, come on out. We got to have you in the office next time.
Yeah, I will. I'll be there. We'll talk to somebody else together.
That would be a ton of fun. And I want you to bring WurkinStiffs from the Mecca. And you have to walk them in here. That would be beautiful.
Well, yeah, we'll get them to you.
Perfect. So
everyone needs a magnetic collar stay, by the way. We all need them.
Absolutely. And so, this is my, shameless plug for you, because I believe in the product so much. And I say this, like you said, 3 times so far. This is the thing I can't go on the road without. I can't leave the house if I'm wearing a collar shirt without it. And WurkinStiffs, it's WurkinStiffs.com. If you want to see this, it's also on Amazon. They have a new collar stay, which is really killer. If you're wearing golf shirts or those Under Armour shirts, a new collar stay, which will help those stick down without having the collar stay spot for a shirt. They also have cufflinks and the traditional working stiff. Yeah, there it is. Now we're talking. From the man himself.
Product placement.
Check it out. This is product placement. This is something that is very simple to get, and it will change your mojo completely. So, John, any parting shots for the audience here?
No, I mean, hey, I like to tell everyone, keep doing what you're doing and stay persistent and stay stiff.
Game on, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Lee.